$1 million. Sign this contract, and in 2 years, we get a divorce. In return, I'll fund that failing app of yours. Isabella Rossi sat across from me. Her voice as cold as the glass tabletop she slid the document across. I was floored. Are you serious? Isabella was the titan of New York City finance, the heiress apparent to her family's multi-billion-dollar corporation, the Rossi Group. And I, Alex Carter, was just some guy with a startup hemorrhaging cash, 2 years in and on its last legs. She tapped a perfectly manicured nail on the table. What? Is $1 million not enough? Not even close, I said, a reckless idea sparking in my head. If we're going to put on a show, let's make it a Broadway production. I want a $30 million investment. Isabella's eyes narrowed. Do you have any idea what you're saying? I do, I said, leaning back in my chair and flashing a cocky grin. You're after this pretty face. You want a boy toy. A humorless laugh escaped her lips. You've got a lot of nerve, Alex. Do I? You think I don't know you're doing this to appease your grandfather? It's either this or he hands the company over to your cousin Derek. You're in a bind, and you need a husband fast. She raised an eyebrow, a flicker of a smile playing on her lips. You've done your homework. Looks like you're not completely useless after all. She extended a hand. Deal. $30 million. But, she paused, after the wedding, we live together. We have to look like we're deeply in love. I shook her hand, its grip surprisingly firm. You got a deal. What Isabella didn't know was that she'd been a senior when I was a freshman in college. Except back then, she wasn't this ice queen. The day we signed the papers at City Hall, she actually wore a dress. I couldn't help but stare for a second too long, which earned me a sharp frown. What are you looking at? I shrugged. Didn't realize a corporate shark could clean up so nice. The clerk behind the counter prompted us. Smile for the camera, folks. I flashed my biggest, brightest smile. Isabella just barely curled the corner of her mouth. The second we stepped out of the courthouse, her cold mask was back in place as she barked orders at her assistant over the phone, scheduling an afternoon meeting. I looked down at the marriage certificate in my hand, my mind drifting back to my freshman year. There was an end-of-semester party, and Isabella had too much to drink. I found her alone on the steps outside one of the academic halls, a few frat guys circling and catcalling. I couldn't just walk by, so I stepped in and made sure she got back to her dorm safely. The next day, she sent me a text. Thank you. Let me buy you lunch. We met at the campus dining hall. She wore a simple white sundress and smiled like the first warm day of summer. After that lunch, we never spoke again. I always thought she remembered me, but the Isabella standing next to me now had no glimmer of recognition in her eyes. What are you spacing out for? She asked, snapping me back to the present. Go pack your things. You're moving into my place tonight. Okay. My dear wife, I said with a nod. She shot me a glare. Don't call me that. I arched an eyebrow. What? The contract didn't forbid pet names, did it? She was speechless. She just turned on her heel and walked away. I grinned and jogged to catch up, thinking you haven't changed a bit, is he? Still so easy to tease. Isabella's penthouse was in the most exclusive building on the Upper East Side. The front door opened into a living room that was easily over 1,000 square feet. You live in this huge place all by yourself? I asked, looking around. It felt more like a luxury hotel suite than a home. Obviously, she said, tossing me a key. Your room is at the end of the left hallway. Mine is on the right. Don't bother me. Her apartment was cold and sterile, devoid of any personal touch or warmth. Even the massive sofa was covered in unforgiving black leather. The entire space a monochrome palette of black, white, and gray. I dropped my bags and started exploring. The kitchen was state-of-the-art, with every pot and pan imaginable, but it was clear they'd rarely been used. The fridge held nothing but bottled water and a few bottles of wine. What do you usually eat? I yelled toward her home office. Takeout, she replied without looking up from her laptop. So, even titans of industry had their weaknesses. I decided to make dinner, walking to a nearby gourmet market and loading up on ingredients. When I placed a dish of slow-braised short ribs on the dining table, Isabella emerged from her office, pausing as the aroma hit her. You can cook. 4 years of college taught me how to not starve, I said with a smile, motioning for her to join me. Try it. She looked at me, suspiciously. What's the catch? The contract doesn't say I can't cook, does it? Besides, you're too thin. You need to eat more. Isabella took a bite. Her eyes lit up for a fraction of a second before her indifferent mask slammed back down. It's adequate. I had to suppress a laugh, deciding not to call her bluff. After dinner, I cleared the table and did the dishes. When I came back to the living room, she was on the couch, laptop open again. Do you ever stop working? How else do you think I protect the Rossi Group? She said, her eyes fixed on the screen. Suddenly, her phone rang. She answered, and her expression changed instantly. What? My grandfather wants to visit us. He's coming tomorrow? I asked. Isabella nodded, looking stressed. He said he wants to see how we're settling in a married life. Isn't that a good thing? It's the perfect chance to put on our show for him. She glared at me. Nothing here is ready. This place doesn't look like a newlywed couple lives here. I glanced around the vast, impersonal space. True. It's so cold a ghost would be scared to haunt it. You, relax, I said, offering a calming smile. Leave it to me. I'll go out tomorrow morning and pick some things up to make this place look cozier. Isabella hesitated for a moment. Well, thank you. It was the first time she'd said anything remotely polite to me. The next morning, I went out and bought a carload of stuff. By the time I got back to the penthouse, Isabella had already left for the office, leaving a note saying her grandfather would arrive at 6. I spent the entire day transforming the ice palace. I brought in several large potted plants to add life to the living room, hung a wedding photo I'd expertly photoshopped on the wall, and covered the leather sofa with soft blankets and plush pillows. A vase of fresh flowers now sat on the dining table. But the masterstroke was the gallery wall I created in the hallway connecting our bedrooms. I'd scoured social media for over a dozen photos of Isabella, mixing in a few more photoshopped vacation shots of us together. Isabella got home at 5:30 and stopped dead in the doorway, staring at her completely changed apartment. You did all this? She asked, her voice filled with disbelief. What do you think? Looked like the home of a happy, new couple. I asked proudly. She walked over to the gallery wall, pointing at the couple photos. Are these all fake? Yep. How else will we have pictures? I grinned. Don't worry, my Photoshop skills are top-notch. You can't even tell. She stared at the photos for a long time, her gaze lingering on one from her college days. This one is... My heart skipped a beat. It was a picture I had secretly saved, the one I took of her that night she was drunk at the party, right before I walked her back to her dorm. Found online, I lied. Must be from your college years, right? Isabella looked thoughtful, but didn't press the issue. Just then, the doorbell rang. She took a deep breath. Showtime. Isabella's grandfather was a spry old man with an incredibly sharp gaze. Grandpa, this is my husband, Alex, Isabella said, linking her arm through mine. Her voice was so gentle, I almost didn't recognize it. I smiled and said, It's great to meet you, sir, as I took the older man's coat. A fine young man, mister, Rossi said, looking me up and down. What do you do for a living? I'm in tech, founder of a social media app. Oh, interesting, he nodded. That's what all the young people are into these days. We gathered around the dining table, and I served the meal I prepared. You cooked all this? Her grandfather asked, surprised. He did. Isabella jumped in, her tone syrupy sweet. His cooking is amazing. It's half the reason I married him. I nearly choked on my water. This woman was a world-class actress. Mister, Rossi chuckled. This boy is a keeper. Isabella was spoiled rotten growing up. Can't even fry an egg. Grandpa, Isabella whined playfully. It's what I love about her, I said, taking her hand smoothly. She's like a princess. Makes you want to spoil her. Isabella's hand flinched in mine, but then, to my surprise, she squeezed back. After dinner, her grandfather walked over to the gallery wall and pointed at the college picture. Is this when you two met? My stomach tightened, but Isabella answered calmly. Yes. He was after me all through college, but I played hard to get back then. Mister, Rossi gave us a knowing look. Fate is a funny thing, isn't it? After we saw him off, Isabella let out a long sigh and dropped my hand. Finally, the performance is over. But I was still dazed. For a moment there, it had all felt so real. The way she held my arm, acted playful with me, and called me her husband so naturally. Isabella noticed my strange mood. What are you spacing out for? Nothing, I said with a small smile. It's just, you're such a good actress. I almost believed it was real. Her expression flickered. Don't overthink it. We were just putting on a show. I know, I said, turning toward the kitchen. I'll go do the dishes. With my back to her, I let out a bitter, silent laugh. Right? Just a show. A month after her grandfather's visit, our life together settled into a routine. I handled the cooking and cleaning, and she focused on her work. Sometimes, when she worked late, I'd bring dinner to her office. At first, she seemed uncomfortable with the gesture, but eventually, she started texting me proactively. Working late tonight. What's for dinner? One morning, just as I finished making breakfast, Isabella's phone rang. She answered, and her face went rigid. What? Julian Vance is back in the country. The name set off alarm bells in my head. Julian Vance, Isabella's ex-boyfriend, a high-flying executive at some massive overseas investment firm. Why are you meeting with him? Fine. Keep it professional. She hung up, her mood clearly sour. What's wrong? I asked, handing her a cup of coffee. It's nothing, she said, forcing a smile. A potential collaboration for the company. The guy they sent over is just an old acquaintance. I didn't press her, but I knew exactly what was going on. That afternoon, I took the latest beta version of my app over to the Rossi Group headquarters. As I approached Isabella's office, I heard a man's voice from inside. Isabella, it's been 2 years. You've only gotten more beautiful. Thank you for the compliment, Mr. Vance. Isabella's voice was all business. Regarding the project. Don't be so formal, the man interrupted. Is it really necessary between us? I came back to New York for you. Julian, I'm married. I know. To some nobody, I hear. Julian laughed. Don't tell me you're actually in love with him. I pushed the door open and walked in. Sorry, the nobody interrupting something? Isabella's head snapped up. Alex. Julian turned around. He was dressed in a bespoke suit, the picture of a Wall Street alpha. He sized me up, his eyes dripping with contempt. So you're Alex Carter. My wife's assistant told me she skipped lunch, I said, walking straight to Isabella's desk and setting down a thermal container. I brought you those short ribs you like. Isabella stared for a moment, then suddenly grabbed my hand. Honey, this is Mr. Vance. We're discussing a potential partnership. I smiled and extended my free hand. A pleasure to finally meet you. Julian gave my hand a cold, brief shake. So Mr. Carter is a homemaker. How quaint. The atmosphere turned thick with tension. Isabella glanced at her watch. Mr. Vance, it's getting late. I think that's enough for today. Julian nodded. As he was leaving, he shot a meaningful look at Isabella. We'll talk later. The moment he was gone, Isabella released my hand. What are you doing here? Dropping off the app beta. And your lunch, I said, pointing to the container. Looks like I got here just in time. Julian's return cast a dark cloud over our sham marriage. In the following days, he used the business partnership as an excuse to be constantly around Isabella. Invitations to 5-star restaurants, deliveries of extravagant gifts. He even managed to pay a visit to her grandfather. Isabella maintained a professional distance, but I could sense she was wavering. After all, this was a man she had once truly loved. One night, she came home having had too much to drink, a rare occurrence. I was watching TV in the living room and got up as soon as I heard her fumbling with the keys. You've been drinking, I said, steadying her as she swayed. Julian insisted on a toast. She slurred. A wave of irritation washed over me. Is he harassing you again? Not harassing, she said, struggling to focus her eyes on me. He wants to acquire one of the Rossi Group's subsidiaries. I was stunned. What? I helped her to the couch, and she collapsed against me, the smell of wine mingling with her perfume. Alex, she said, suddenly looking up at me, her eyes hazy. What am I supposed to do? I was silent for a moment. Do you still love him? She shook her head, then nodded, then just rested her head on my shoulder and whispered, I don't know. My heart clenched. This was the first time since our arrangement began that she had shown me any vulnerability. To the world, Isabella Rossi was always the cool, composed powerhouse. Only now, in this moment, did she seem like a normal, confused young woman. Get some sleep, I said softly. I'll go with you to see him tomorrow. She didn't seem to hear me, but she closed her eyes obediently. Looking at her sleeping face, I thought of that girl on the college steps all those years ago. Back then, her smile was like sunshine, not like this, weighed down by the burden of a corporate empire. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. A note was left on the table. Forget about last night. I can handle this. I crumpled the note in my fist and dialed my friend Leo's number. Hey, can you do me a favor? Dig into any recent activity between Vance Capital and the Rossi Group. Leo called back within the hour. The Rossi Group's stock has been dipping. Looks like someone's been quietly buying up shares. My money's on Vance, pulling the strings from behind scenes. My blood ran cold. He was trying to force her hand. That evening, Isabella came home looking exhausted. I had a full dinner waiting. How did it go today? I asked. She shook her head. Not good. Some of the board members are getting nervous. They want to accept Vance's acquisition offer. I handed her a flash drive. Take a look at this. Isabella plugged it into her laptop, and as she read, her eyes widened. Is this research on the companies Vance Capital has acquired before? Yep, I nodded. They have a pattern. Start with a friendly offer, slowly take over operations, and then gut the company, pushing out the entire original leadership team. She looked at me, astonished. When did you find all this? Today, I shrugged, called in a few favors. Isabella took a deep breath. Thank you, Alex. Don't mention it. I smiled. Contract says I'm your husband, right? She was quiet for a moment, then asked, Why did you agree to this fake marriage in the first place? $1 million and a $30 million investment is enough to make a guy do crazy things, I said, half joking. It was just for the money. I met her gaze. At first, it was, now, maybe there are other reasons. She looked like she was about to say something, but her phone rang. It was her grandfather, announcing he was coming for dinner tomorrow and bringing a guest. Isabella hung up, her expression complicated. Grandpa's bringing Julian with him. I raised an eyebrow. Looks like the old man is a fan of this potential grandson-in-law. This isn't a joke, she snapped. Julian must have gone to him directly. So what's the plan? She looked at me, a sly glint in her eyes. The plan is to put on the performance of a lifetime. We're going to convince my grandfather that we are the happiest, most in-love couple he has ever seen. My heart skipped a beat. All right, leave it to me. The next day, Mr. Rossi arrived with Julian in tow. Julian, looking smug in his designer suit, was holding a bottle of 1982 Chateau Lafite. Alex, I hear you're quite the chef, Mr. Rossi said with a cheerful smile. I get by, I said, tying on an apron, though I'm no connoisseur like Mr. Vance here. Julian swirled the wine bottle theatrically. The perfect pairing for your cooking. Isabella came over and linked her arm through mine naturally. Anything my husband makes is delicious, no matter the wine. I couldn't help but smile, leaning down to give her a soft kiss on the forehead. Why don't you keep Grandpa company, honey? I'll finish up in the kitchen. Julian's face darkened. The atmosphere at the dinner table was bizarrely pleasant. Mr. Rossi was full of praise. Alex, this is better than what you'd get at a Michelin-starred restaurant. Isabella likes it, so I practice, I said with a smile. She's been a picky eater since she was a little girl, her grandfather said to Julian. Now that she has Alex, she's filled out a bit. Julian forced a smile. Isabella does seem to have a certain glow about her now. Isabella leaned her head on my shoulder, feigning nonchalance. That's because my husband spoils me. A flash of jealousy crossed Julian's eyes. He raised his glass. A toast. To Mr. Carter. It's a rare fortune to win Isabella's heart. I could say the same to you, I said, clinking my glass against his. Marrying Isabella was the luckiest day of my life. Mr. Rossi beamed at us. Wonderful, wonderful. Young people in love. Julian, you should find yourself a nice girl, too. Julian couldn't hide his bitterness. Fate is a funny thing. Some people might look happily married, but that doesn't mean they are. It all comes down to whether the feelings are real, I countered smoothly. Some relationships look perfect on the surface, but can't withstand a real challenge. Isabella squeezed my hand. Alex and I may not have known each other long, but it was love at first sight. We're very happy. Her grandfather grinned. Excellent. So when can I expect a great-grandchild? The question made both Isabella and me freeze. Julian, sensing her discomfort, pounced. What's this? Married for a while and no plans for a baby? Isabella's face flushed. We're focused on our careers right now. That's right, Grandpa. I added, trying to smooth things over. Besides, we're young. There's plenty of time. But her grandfather was relentless. Being young is the best time. Look at Julian. Successful man. If he hadn't let Isabella get away, he'd probably have kids running around by now. Julian seized the opportunity. I've always regretted my decision back then. If I could do it all over. But you can't. I cut him off. Isabella is my wife now. After dinner, Mr. Rossi pulled me aside onto the balcony. Alex, he said, I can see that you genuinely love my granddaughter. I was stunned, unsure how to respond. Don't be nervous, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. At my age, you get good at reading people. That Julian fellow is too ambitious. He's not right for Isabella. I asked cautiously, Sir, you don't want the Rossi Group to partner with Vance Capital? I don't meddle in business affairs, the old man said, his eyes glinting. But family is different. Isabella's happiness is the most important thing. After Mr. Rossi and Julian left, Isabella let out a huge sigh of relief. Glad that's over. But a thought was nagging at me. Your grandfather. He seems to know more than he lets on. Isabella looked alarmed. What do you mean? Nothing. I shook my head. Probably just my imagination. In the weeks that followed, I became Isabella's shadow, helping her analyze Vance Capital's market strategies, compiling data, and even sitting in on meetings with key board members. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn. The board's sentiment shifted, and the Rossi Group's stock price began to recover. One evening, Isabella burst through the door, her face radiant. Alex, we did it. The board just voted unanimously to reject Vance's acquisition proposal. She threw her arms around me in a rush of excitement. I froze for a second before gently wrapping my arms around her. Congratulations. She seemed to realize what she'd done and quickly pulled away, a blush creeping up her neck. Thank you for all your help. You're welcome. I smiled. It's in the contract, remember? We're supposed to protect each other's interests. The mention of the contract hung in the air, instantly making things awkward. Right, Isabella said quietly. By the way, how is your app coming along? We just launched. User growth is looking good. That's great, she nodded. I've had accounting wire the first round of funding. It should be in your account by tomorrow. I was surprised. So soon. It's in the contract, she said, echoing my words back at me. I have to honor the agreement. We looked at each other and smiled. Just as the tension finally broke, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Julian standing there, his face a mask of fury, flanked by two imposing men who looked like bodyguards. Well played, Isabella, he sneered, pushing his way inside, convincing the entire board to turn against me. Isabella's expression hardened. Julian, what is the meaning of this? Cut the act, he shot back, walking further into the apartment. I did some digging. I know your marriage is a complete sham. My heart hammered against my ribs, but Isabella remained cool. And what proof do you have? Julian pulled out his phone. I have a copy of your marriage contract, the one that clearly states you'll divorce in 2 years. I was in shock. Where did you get that? You'd be surprised who's willing to sell you out for the right price, Julian said with a triumphant smirk. Imagine what your grandfather, or the media, would do with this. Isabella's face went pale. What do you want? It's simple, Julian said, stepping menacingly close to her. You agree to the partnership with Vance Capital, or else. I stepped between them, pulling Isabella behind me. Don't listen to him. So what if it started as a fake marriage? Isabella hesitated, and Julian laughed coldly. Don't even try, Carter. You're only in this for the money. Don't feed me some line about having real feelings for her. And what if I do? I said, looking Julian straight in the eye. What if I told you that I fell in love with my wife, even if it started as a contract? Isabella stared at me, her eyes wide with shock. Julian was momentarily speechless. Ridiculous, he finally spat. You think you can spin some fairy tale and make this all go away? It's not a fairy tale, I said, my gaze shifting to Isabella. We knew each other in college. The night you had too much to drink at that party, I was the one who took you back to your dorm. Isabella's eyes widened further. That was you? I thought I dreamed that. Julian scoffed. Who cares about the past? Your marriage is a lie. Right here, right now. And what if it is? A new voice cut through the tension. Her grandfather's. Feelings can grow. A marriage is about commitment and responsibility between two people. We all turned, stunned, to see Mr. Rossi walking calmly through the open doorway, followed by his own security team. Grandpa, what are you doing here? Isabella asked, flustered. I was worried you two couldn't handle this punk, the old man said, gesturing dismissively at Julian. Turns out I arrived just in time for a very interesting conversation. The color drained from Julian's face. Mr. Rossi, this is a misunderstanding, Julian, her grandfather said, his eyes narrowing. Did you really think I didn't know what you were up to? Trying to use my granddaughter to get your hands on my company? I've had you investigated for months. He then looked at Isabella and me. As for their marriage, I've known it was an arrangement from the start. Isabella was speechless. Mr. Rossi chuckled. But seeing how well this young man treats you, I decided to turn a blind eye. Sometimes, love needs a little time to blossom. Seeing the tables had turned, Julian tried to make a break for it, but Mr. Rossi's security guards blocked his path. Take his phone, the old man commanded. Delete that contract, and then escort him out. He is never to set foot in a Rossi property again. The guards moved efficiently, and a moment later, Julian was unceremoniously ejected from the apartment. Mr. Rossi clapped me on the shoulder. That was a fine speech you gave, son. You should bring Isabella by the estate for dinner sometime. With a wink at his granddaughter, he was gone. The apartment was silent, leaving just Isabella and me in the suddenly cavernous living room. Grandpa knew all along, she whispered. I gave a wry smile. The old man is a lot sharper than we gave him credit for. What you said earlier. She began, looking at me hesitantly. Was it true? Facing her now, the words caught in my throat. I took a deep breath. It was true. I knew you in college. After that night, I took you home. We had lunch together, but you seemed to forget about me after that. A light sparked in her eyes. So that picture on the wall. I saved it, I admitted. When your office contacted me about the arrangement, I recognized you instantly. Why didn't you say anything? You were the heiress to the Rossi Group. I was a nobody with a failing startup, I said with a bitter smile. The gap was too wide. Her brow furrowed. So you agreed to the marriage because you already knew me? I agreed because of the money and the investment, I confessed. But slowly, things changed. Slowly what? She pressed. I looked in her eyes. Slowly, I realized I was genuinely falling in love with you. Isabella stared at me, stunned. It was a long moment before she spoke. You know, after that night, I always remembered someone taking care of me so gently, but I could never place the face. We had lunch, but things were so crazy with school and internships. I lost track. It's okay, I said softly. It's all in the past. I met Julian right after graduation, she said suddenly, her voice quiet. We were together for 2 years. I thought I was going to marry him. Then I found out he was only interested in the Rossi Group's resources. I listened silently as she unburdened herself. After that, I gave up on love. I focused only on my career, she said with a humorless laugh. When Grandpa started pressuring me to get married, a fake arrangement seemed like the perfect solution. And then you found me. Yes, my team vetted several candidates. You were the most suitable, she said. But I honestly didn't remember you from college. Do you remember now? I asked gently. She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. That night, you gave me a glass of water and told me, "Don't worry, I've got you." My heart ached. You remember that? I always remembered the words, she whispered, taking a step closer. I just forgot who said them. Alex, our contract has 1 year and 5 months left. Are you willing to keep up the act? I shook my head. No, I don't want to act anymore. Her face fell. I want to be with you, for real, I said, taking her hands in mine. Not because of a contract, but because we love each other. Isabella's eyes lit up, then dimmed again. Alex, the gap between us is still too big. What gap? I asked, confused. Look at me, she said with a self-deprecating smile. I was spoiled my whole life. I can't even find my way around a kitchen. You're talented and kind and thoughtful. All I have is money. I burst out laughing. What are you talking about? Isabella, you are the most incredible woman I've ever met. You carry the weight of an entire corporation on your shoulders. You deal with endless pressure and scheming, and you never once complain. Do you have any idea how much I admire you? She was stunned. Really? Of course it's real, I said, squeezing her hands. These past few months, I've just been in awe of your strength and your intelligence. You're anything but useless. Tears streamed down her face. But I haven't been very good to you. You gave me $1 million and a $30 million investment. I'd say you've been pretty good to me. I joked. She swatted my arm. I'm being serious. So, am I? I said, my voice soft, my eyes locked on hers. You let me into your home. You trusted me to help you fight Julian. You remember what my favorite foods are. Isn't that more than enough? She was quiet for a long time. Then she asked, what about the contract? We tear it up? I said without a second's hesitation. We start over. No fake marriage. A real one. Isabella took a shaky breath. Are you sure? If we're really together, it could get complicated. My life is a mess, and the Rossi Group has a lot of enemies. I'm not scared. I cut her off. As long as I'm with you, it's all worth it. Finally, a real smile broke across her face. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen, even more radiant than her smile in college. Alex, she whispered, I think I'm falling in love with you, too. I pulled her into my arms and kissed her. It was a kiss that melted away every pretense, every lie, leaving only the raw, honest truth of our feelings. When we finally broke apart, she rested her head against my chest. Grandpa's going to be thrilled. He already knew. I laughed. The old man was probably just waiting for us to catch up. Isabella suddenly looked up. Oh, and about your app. I'm still investing. Not because of the contract, she continued, but because I believe in you and what you're building. I held her tighter. Thank you for trusting me. I'm going to work my tail off to make it succeed. You know, she said, tilting her head back to look at me, that first day we met in the restaurant to sign the papers, I thought you looked familiar. I just couldn't figure out from where. Fate, I grinned. We took the scenic route, but we ended up in the same place. Isabella and I tore up the marriage contract and began our life as a real couple. I moved my things into her master bedroom, and she started trying to learn how to cook. The kitchen was usually a disaster zone after her attempts, but watching her study a recipe with such intense concentration always made me smile. Stop laughing, she'd scold, her hands covered in flour. This is my first time making cookies. They look amazing, I'd say, kissing her cheek. Way better than my first try. She would beam with pride. Of course. I'm a natural. With the backing of the Rossi Group, my app took off. Our user base soared past 1 million. One day, I was in a board meeting with my team when Isabella walked in unannounced. What's up? I asked, concerned. Is everything okay? She gave me a mysterious smile. I have some good news. She pulled me out into the hallway and took a deep breath. Grandpa has decided to retire. He's officially naming me the new chairwoman of the Rossi Group. That's incredible, I yelled, lifting her up and spinning her around. Congratulations. Her smile was tinged with a hint of worry. But it's so much more responsibility. Don't worry, I said, cupping her face in my hands. You can handle it, and you'll have me right beside you. She smiled, her eyes softening. Yeah, I'll have you. The news of Isabella's appointment as chairwoman sent shockwaves through the business world. The media scrambled to cover the story of the brilliant young woman at the helm, and with that came a deluge of curiosity about me. The Ice Queen's mysterious husband. How did he capture the Rossi heiress's heart? Read one headline on a major business news site. Isabella saw it and burst out laughing. Mysterious husband? Why don't they just call you the man behind the throne? I shrugged. Let them say what they want. I only care about one thing. What's that? Are you happy? I asked her seriously. She paused for a moment, then gave me a firm, heartfelt nod. Very happy. One weekend, Mr. Rossi invited us to the family estate for dinner. Over the meal, he suddenly announced, You two have been married almost a year. When are you going to give me a great-grandchild? Isabella and I glanced at each other, our faces turning red in unison. Grandpa, she said softly, we were thinking of waiting a little longer until the company is more stable. Her grandfather waved his hand, dismissively. The company has a board of directors for a reason. You don't have to do everything yourself. There's more to life than work. Family is important, too. On the drive home, Isabella rested her head on my shoulder. Alex, do you think he's right? I took her hand. I think he is. But this is our decision, not anyone else's. We don't have to rush to meet expectations. She nodded. I just worry that if we had a child, my focus would be divided. Then I'll pick up the slack, I said with a smile. I'm pretty good around the house, you know. Isabella laughed. Oh, right. I forgot I married such a domestic god. A year later, my app company went public. On the day of the IPO, Isabella was by my side as we rang the opening bell on the stock exchange floor. From a broke startup founder funded by his wife to a CEO worth hundreds of millions, a reporter teased during the press conference. Mr. Carter, how does it feel? I looked at Isabella, standing next to me. My greatest asset isn't the money. It's her. In front of all the cameras, Isabella, for the first time I'd ever seen, blushed. That night, we celebrated at home with a bottle of champagne. Do you remember the first time we really met? Isabella asked, curled up on the sofa. Of course, I laughed. You had this ridiculously imperious look on your face and said, $1 million. Sign this contract. She punched my arm playfully. I was not that dramatic. Oh, you were? I said, gently pinching her cheek. You were a total tyrant, and you still said yes. Because I was already hooked, I said simply. Even if it started with the money, the moment I saw you again, I knew I was still into you. Isabella watched me quietly. Alex, thank you for coming into my life. I should be thanking you, I said, taking her hand. If you hadn't shown up with that crazy proposal, we might have never found our way back to each other. She suddenly sat up, a secretive smile on her face. I have a present for you. A present? Today was my company's IPO. You got me a present. Isabella reached into her purse and pulled out a small, rectangular box. Open it. I opened the box. Inside was a pregnancy test with 2 clear, solid lines. I stared at it, then at her, my mind reeling. You're pregnant. She nodded, her eyes shining with tears. 2 months. I swept her into my arms, a wave of pure, unadulterated joy washing over me. This is amazing. I'm going to be a dad. Isabella laughed and cried against my shoulder. Alex, I'm so happy. Me too. I whispered, kissing the top of her head. From a fake marriage to real love. It was the best decision I ever made. She looked up at me. Life won't always be this easy. We'll probably face a lot more challenges. I know, I said, my voice serious. But whatever happens, we'll face it together. This isn't a contract anymore. It's a promise for life. Isabella nestled back into my arms. A promise for life. Outside the window, the city lights twinkled like a million stars, stretching out into the night. Just like our future, full of infinite possibilities. The love that began with a fake marriage contract had, against all odds, become the most real thing in our lives. Sometimes life surprises you like that. You think you're just playing a part, but somewhere along the way, the act becomes the truth.